The early days of film as entertainment include a lot of cross-imagining and invention. In America, Thomas Edison was inviting spectators to look through peepholes at his short films that ran no more than a minute. In 1895 France, the Lumiere Brothers, in trying to advertise their family's manufacturing of photographic equipment to more than one spectator at a time, they found a way to instead project their short films on a screen. Meanwhile, Alice Guy Blache was working as a secretary at a photographic and supply company under Léon Gaumont and learning everything she needed to know about the company's equipment, including how to operate it. Gaumont was friends with the Lumiere brothers when they introduced him to film projection on a screen before they took it public. Guy Blache, also present and awed by the moving picture, began imagining a less boring way to demonstrate it. Gaumont agreed she could use company equipment to test out her ideas. She plays a fairy who births infants from a cabbage patch. I find the greater historical significance in its suggestive symbolism. It can not only be seen as symbolic of the filmmaker's entrance into her new profession, but also symbolic of the door she just flung open for other women to enter. The Fairy of the Cabbages earned her the title of First Woman Director. Many of those films were phono scenes to demonstrate the Gaumont equipment that synced sound with moving images. Many historians see the photo scene as a prototype for today's music videos. Recorded on separate discs, singers would sing along to recordings, and footage and sound would be put together in post-production editing. Having the latest equipment available to her, Guy Blache incorporated the available techniques into her storytelling. Among early contemporaries, she probably had most in common with Georges Melies. Like Guy Blache, he was neither an inventor nor manufacturer of photographic equipment. Also like her, he saw more imaginative uses for the camera. As a magician, he revamped his stage acts for the camera. Melies also turned to new storytelling possibilities, especially sci-fi. Her background absent of inventing or manufacturing photographic equipment proved an asset. While the Lumiere brothers grew up around photographic equipment, her father owned a bookstore. It's no surprise then that she made adaptations Such an upbringing may have freed her to focus on storytelling as a means to present moving pictures. In 1908, she moved to the United States with her new husband, Herbert Blache, also an employee of the company. His new job as production manager for Gaumont operations couldn't compete well with the established market in America. Her basic pattern of visual storytelling remains relatively the same. She starts out with an inciting problem or conflict that gets things started. In many cases, she employs dramatic irony by letting the audience in on the misunderstandings that cause the plot to rise in intensity. Her comedies especially captured my attention, and I find in them her most accomplished work as a storyteller and director. Several of her early films include characteristics that would later dominate the screwball comedies of the 30s and 40s, such as The Battle of the Sexes, plot lines involving courtship and marriage, disguise, wit, misunderstandings, and farce. Matrimony in 12 Minutes uses not only wit and the battle of the sexes, but the still popular plot device, beat the clock. Here a stockbroker loses his fortune, feels emasculated and heartbroken, and wants to kill himself. The attempt at balancing out the sexes, however, can't escape the underlying imbalances of gender roles practiced most often for the era. The male gender has the ultimate control over females. The female must use any device outside of direct confrontation to convince the male to do something her way. In her 1912 comedy, A House Divided, Guy Blache uses a misunderstanding in the battle of the sexes to show that jealousy has no gender boundaries. In an otherwise happy marriage, the wife smells suspicious perfume on the jacket of her husband, and the husband finds a pair of suspicious gloves on a bureau. On another level, the film seems to implicate the working class by making the clumsy salesman spill the perfume and the domestic help's lover leave his gloves behind. Yet, on a second look, it's the husband's gruffness that causes the spill and the wife's disruption of a kiss that causes the chaos in the kitchen. Using dramatic irony in which the audience becomes a partner, we wait for the couple to discover the truth. While the couple suffer equally from a mistaken and adolescent jealousy and anger, the house is still under patriarchy. It's the husband who calls in the lawyer for a separation, and it's the wife who cries behind a room divider. The wife confides in the mother why she is crying by sharing with her some of the notes. It's the husband who acts a hero against a possible burglar while the wife pushes him on. By the end, however, the housekeeper who has forgotten her key climbs through a window and gets mistaken for the burglar. That indirectly causes the couple's laughter over their fear and leads to their reuniting. Money. A man comes across enough money to make him desirable to women and the envy of men. In the end, he gets swindled and the woman chooses the one with the money. At the time, it was not acceptable for women to earn their own living. While the film presents an all-black cast, it occurred incidentally. Driven by racism, the whites originally on the set walked out. Her last film, Tarnished Reputations, though considered lost, appears to have explored the societal limitations for women that cause them to be rescued by men, whether to become financially stable or redeemed through a returning lover. Came across Guy Blache's films and pioneers, first women filmmakers. Taken by her films, I began researching them. I was pleased to find others pursuing her as well, including the Whitney Museum. The most recent work on her is Pamela Green's documentary, Being Natural, produced by Jodie Foster, Hugh Hefner, and Robert Redford. Foster narrates.